Join me as I talk about 9 different things to do with everybody's favorite pre-cut jelly roll strips, or strip sets. There are lots of different names for it. Hi everybody, it's Claudia from Create with Claudia. Thanks so much for stopping by. Today I'm going to go over jelly rolls or strip sets, whatever you want to call them. There are lots of different names for them, but they are very commonly known as jelly rolls, which actually was started, Moda Fabrics used that first. That's your little bit of tidbit of history for you. I'm making this video to celebrate National Jelly Roll Day. Woohoo! It's a fun day every year where sewists, quilters, you name it, they get together, or they don't get together, they do it in their house wherever they want to do it. And they sew with jelly rolls. It's lots of fun. If you know pre-cuts and you know sewing and quilting, you know jelly rolls. They are packs. Usually, traditionally, they're 2.5 inches by width of fabric. And usually you get, I believe it's 40 strips in each pack. And usually, not always, but sometimes it's 2 of each fabric in a line. So before I get going on this video, I do want to let you know I am a Missouri Star Quilt Company partner, which means a couple of things. One, it means from time to time they send me awesome things to use, like the jelly roll that I just showed you, that strip set. They send me things. Sometimes I can choose what I want to get from them. Sometimes they'll send it to me. I give them some parameters of what I like to do, what colors I like, that kind of thing. But they are so generous and send me things from time to time. I do unboxings as well. So this strip set that I just showed you is part of that. So a lot of these projects, not all of them, but a lot of them are made with items from Missouri Star Quilt Company. The other good news about being a partner with them is I can give you discounts from time to time. Now this next one I'm mentioning is not good in September 2024 because part of this video and part of what I'm talking about today is Missouri Star Quilt Company is having a huge birthday bash at the end of September 2024. So they already have some incredible discounts. But normally, if you use my code, and it's in my description of the video, it's a link that you can use, you get 20% off of purchases of $50 or more on qualifying items. Of course, it is subject to change without notice. For example, in September of 2024, it won't be good. But normally that's what you would use. When you do use that link, I earn a commission, and I thank you so much for that. Anytime anybody uses that, I do appreciate it so much. That commission helps enable me to keep doing YouTube videos like I do. I have a blog where I do all kinds of free tutorials and that kind of thing. It also helps me with my business and my pattern writing and that kind of thing. So thank you so much. So this first piece is a very simple pattern. My cutting mat's rolling all over the place. This is my City Lights pattern, and I remade this. I'm going to show you a picture of the whole thing into a baby quilt. Let me just show you again. Here, show you. This is sort of a rainbow jelly roll that I got, or a strip set. This is the actual pattern. Let me flip it around. That would help, wouldn't it? It's called City Lights. It has 3 sizes. This is great for a beginner pattern. It's in my Etsy shop if you're interested. But I just want to show you how simple you can use a jelly roll. These are just the strips. These are also strips. So all of this entire quilt, this baby quilt, is made by 2 jelly rolls. One was in whites with all kinds of different sort of variegated white on whites. You can see it in the camera. And then this sort of rainbow look. Let me fold it up. You can see some more colors, just a few more. I still need to quilt this, of course. But this is a great and simple pattern. And there are a lot of patterns like this out there where you just use the strips. You don't need to do anything else with them. It's very simple. Again, this is called City Lights. Then next up, I wanted to show you, I had a lot of fabric left over from these strips that I decided to use. And once this is quilted, I made binding out of the remaining strips. So here you can see it. So binding is another way. So that's, I guess, number 2 is binding. It's just a great way to use up those strips that you're not going to use anymore. I mean, you can save them for something else, of course. But you can see this is going to make a really fun, scrappy binding. The next one I want to show you is another really easy idea. If you have one strip set or one jelly roll, you can make, I did a blog tutorial or post on this, and I also have a video on it. You can make a table runner and a bed runner, a big bed runner. I think it was like 90 inches. I actually have since sold that bed runner. But this is the table runner. that I made. And you can see these are all from the same family. This was a really pretty jelly roll. I don't remember the name of it, but it was these gorgeous, like deep reds. Love this runner. This actually, even though it wasn't Christmas fabric, I think it could sort of double for Christmas. And then I did use the binding then the strips that were left over as the binding as well. So you can kind of see it. This next one is an oldie but goodie, and I've seen them, you see them all over the place. I've never made an actual rug out of it, but you can make jelly roll rugs. And this is actually a bag that I made. I need to actually reinforce this bag. I've used this so many times. It's getting old. I probably should make another one, but I love it so much. I love the colors. These were all batiks, and I tried to do them sort of in a rainbowy look. And this is that jelly roll rug technique. This was actually a pattern that I had. I don't know if I still have the pattern, and I added some buttons. It's a huge tote bag. I take it always to quilt shows and things like that. I love it. It's very sentimental to me, but this is a great way to use up some of those jelly roll strips too. And these were all strips that I had collected over the years, and even some that I made myself. So this is a good idea. Those rugs, you can get patterns like that all over the place too for a jelly roll rug or basket, or in my case, a tote bag. So number 4 is using it as backing. Now this is not the back of the quilt. I just wanted to show you the front. I call this bubble tee, or bubble tee is what I called it. This was a project when I was an Island Batik brand ambassador. They sent me these strips, and I cut them into 2.5-inch squares and made this fun little applique sort of bubble. Looks like an olive or something like that. But I used it as sashing, so that was one way, is I cut it up. But because I had so many strips left over, I decided to use the rest as, if I can not get it caught on everything, I decided to use the rest as backing. I didn't have a fabric that I really loved for the backing, so I said, you know what, why don't I just use these strips? So these were all strips from this one strip set, and it fit perfectly. This is a small wall hanging. Again, I'm showing you a picture really quickly up on the screen. And I just had fun doing this, but there you go. There's another idea for those jelly roll strips, is backing, a quilt backing. One of the fun things you can do with strips, these 2.5-inch jelly roll strips, is you can make half square triangles out of it. And I'm going to show you how to do that really quickly. Here again is that pack, the rest of the pack of those gorgeous strips from Island Batik called Tranquility. So I picked out 2 of them that I thought were really pretty together, this green and this blue. So you want to press these so they're nice and pressed. They're nice and crisp. I like batiks because they are so crisp to work with. I'm going to tell you 2 quick things to look at when you're doing this technique of making half square triangles. 2 things. One, these do end up being a little stretchy because of the way they're cut. And I'm going to show you one I've already made. Here's one I've already made, and I'm going to show you up close. The fabric does stretch because of the way you've cut it off, not on the grain. So see how it stretches a little bit? That can be a little tricky to work with. So you may want to use some starch. That's just a tip I have. You don't have to. I didn't use starch. Batiks are a little bit stiffer than other fabrics. And then the other thing is you just got to watch when you're cutting. It can be a little tricky too. And I'll show you that in a second, how I cut. But let me just show you really quickly how this works. First thing, you're going to take your 2 strips, whichever 2 you want, and these are going to make your half square triangles. You're going to line them up right sides facing on top of each other. And I kind of work it through the machine. I try to line it up really well before I put it in the machine, but that's kind of it. They're so long that it's kind of hard to do. You'll find that it's pretty easy to sew these once you get going. And just smooth them down, and you're going to do a 1/4-inch seam allowance on this side and a 1/4-inch seam allowance on this side. Just go up and down. All right, so here is my tube. Basically, again, I've sewn down. I'm going to show you, I had pink thread in the bobbin in hopes that you could see it a little bit better. You can see I did that 1/4-inch seam allowance down each side of that. It's open, it's like a tube, although that doesn't matter. But now we're going to trim these down. Let me flip this over. So I'm trying to think which one's easier to see. So you have the seam here and you have the seam here, and you're just going to take a square ruler. This is very easy. And you know what? It might be easier to see it on the blue. Let's see. Just realized that. You want to line up, make sure your line's even along here. Put that point, let me get a pencil here to point it to. Put that point right there under that seam, or just right on that seam, because you don't want to cut through the seam or it's going to be, you'll have sewn the top and the bottom together. And then you're going to line up your ruler along this one right here. It hits those points right there. You just want to make sure you're lined up. In fact, I'm not quite lined up. And then of course you want to make sure here that you're not, that you leave that you have some fabric there. And then you are going to cut. It takes a few seconds, and once you get going, it's a lot easier. And then you're just going to cut. That's the other thing. It's a little tricky to cut. So here you have your first one. They will need to be trimmed down, but there you go. There you can see your half square triangle. So then we still have this here. You already cut that one out. You're going to rotate your ruler and line it up so that you're at the edge here. You got that line there on your ruler, and then you're just at that point, just right there. Let me point it out again. There's that seam again. You don't want to go over that, or it'll be sewn on the front, on the top too. And just line it up. You do still need to cut these down to 2.5 inch, to 2.5 inch square. And there you go. Now it looks a little funny now. Let me just show you, and then I'm going to press to, I'll probably press to the blue, and then I'll show you how we trim them down. But that's how you cut these out, and you would just go all the way across. And I did it with these blue ones, these light blue ones, and I got, well, I miscut a couple, so I think I could have gotten 22 or 23 out of the strip. All right, so here it is. Here they are. You want to be really careful when you're pressing them too, because again, they're a little more stretchy. You don't want to stretch them out too much. So now they need to be trimmed down. I'm using 2.5 inches because they are about, if you don't trim them down, whoops, if you don't trim them down, they're about 2 3/4, just a little bit underneath that. And I just want 2.5 inches. So these square rulers are absolutely invaluable, especially with the diagonal line. I love the diagonal line. So basically, you're going to, first off, you want to make a nice sharp corner. I lost my pencil. Nice sharp corner here. That's going to be sort of your starting point. So you're going to lay your ruler on and line up that diagonal line on the seam. Trim that up, and now you have a nice sharp starting point. Rotate it around, and you're going to find the 2.5 inch point where that diagonal line hits the 2.5 inch point, and you're going to put that right there on that corner, right here. Let me point again. There, and then you're going to line your squared up, the fabric up here, and then along the diagonal line, and then you're going to trim the rest. So there's a little bit of extra fabric doing it this method, but there you go. There's your 2.5 inch half square triangle made out of jelly roll strips. So the next two I'm going to show you are ones that are actually using templates that I did get from Missouri Star Quilt Company. And the last time I checked, I don't know, if, when you're watching this video, they may or may not still have them, but at the last checking, they did have them. And I made this video in September of 2024, just so you know. The first one is a hexagon out of jelly roll strips. I made this little piece just to show you. Let me move it up so you can actually see it. You can see those hexagons coming out. This is the half hexagon template. I'm going to move this out of the way. It's got nice neon color so you can see. I'm going to put it against the white. That might be easier to see. It is perfect for jelly rolls, 2.5 inch strips. I have some leftover from that Tranquility fabric. I'm going to show you how I cut one of these. But basically, they're half hexagons, which is great because I'm not a huge Y seam fan, of real, like, you know, if you did a full hexagon. So this is a great trick for this. It makes it much easier to make a hexagon quilt. If you can see it, you can see the seam. You might be, this is a good one to see it on. You use the same fabric. There's a little bit of planning in this, but if you use the same fabric on the top and bottom, you get that hexagon look without those Y seams. Just again, a really easy way to do this. So let me just show you really quickly how I use this ruler for this. So I'm just going to use one of these pieces of fabric. Now again, just imagine that you'd have the entire jelly roll strip, which I do not have. Now I just line up. If you look, it has a sort of a squared off edge there. And I line that squared off edge with that side here. Okay, and then I line up the bottom with the bottom edge of the jelly roll strip, And I will say the cutting's a little tricky on this one. Let's see. And then you're just going to cut it this way. Get rid of that, okay? And then probably not the best way to do it. Usually I'll put it this way. That's actually the easier way. Sometimes, you know, when I'm doing stuff on camera, I do it in weird angles because I can't see it. So just line that up again. Make sure your cuts are all lined up, top, bottom, then the side. And there you have that shape. And that is 1/2, let me just show you, of this of a hexagon. So you would put them like that and you just line them up. I've always wanted to do a hexagon quilt. This makes a nice size hexagon. It is about, let's see, the very rough estimate about, let's see, it's about 4.5, I guess 4 inches, maybe 4 inches when all is said and done. Let me just check it this way. Yeah, about 4 inches when, you know, finished 4 inches a hexagon. So that's a nice size. It's not a real small one. So this next quilt, and I'm going to show it to you on the screen so you can see the whole thing, but I'm going to lay it out for you. When I first became a partner with Missouri Star Quilt Company, one of the things I ordered, they send you a lot of things and you can pick out things. I ordered a jelly roll. It was from Maywood Studios called Shadow Play Mineral. I just fell in love with that fabric. It's this beautiful sort of heathered array of colors. And I thought what I was going to do. And I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to make triangles out of it. And when I got that, I got this little ruler. And hopefully, let me see if you can see it. Putting me on the back of this, you'll be able to see it a little bit better. It's called the Mini Tri Ruler. And it's for rectangles. I just, no, scratch that. It's for triangles, don't mind me. And you cut them out of jelly roll strips. It's designed specifically for jelly roll strips, and I'll show you how I do that in a second. And at first I had all kinds of fancy plans to make some fancy design, and then I said, you know what, no, this fabric just screamed sparkle to me. So that's what I did. Let me just show you a little bit more. This was a lot of fussy cutting, a lot of pieces, and I made a baby quilt out of it, and I'm really happy with it. It just, these colors all blended together. That's really one of the things I love about jelly rolls, is you can find so many different designs and patterns, and they all seem to blend together. If you buy a jelly roll, you know, you can always make your own too. I mean, that's the other thing, is it's very easy to make your own jelly roll, or just 2.5 inch strips. But let me just show you really quickly how I use this ruler. So this is just a leftover piece of a jelly roll. For this one, again, you can see how it fits really nicely. And I'm just going to line it up. I line mine up so I don't waste any fabric. I like to line it up on the corner there. Let me move it up a little bit. Line it up so it's straight along this edge. And you can see there's that sort of squared off top. It's sort of hard to see, I know, sorry about that. And then you're just going to trim this off. I'm going to watch my fingers. It is fussy to cut these. I will say I took a long time cutting all those triangles. And again, because of the camera, I usually do it at a different angle. And then I'm going to put that there. Line it up. The nice thing is these little templates come with an instruction packet, so it tells you how to sew them together and how to cut them, make, you know, easy ways to cut them. But there's how this shape comes out. You can see it there. and it just makes a wonderful quilt. It is small, these are small pieces, but it's so much fun to use. Again, the sides are a little stretchy. That's one of the things when you're using these templates. You do have to watch your, just watch it just a little bit, just use a little extra care. So this next one is a pattern that I actually sell on my Etsy shop. It's a new pattern in my shop. It's called Jeweled Triangles. It's a paper piece pattern, and it's only just for the block. This is how it turns out. I'm going to show you how they look. These are simple triangles. They're designed specifically for a jelly roll. It's a very easy pattern if you're new to paper piecing. I will be honest, I don't do a ton of paper piecing, so when I design a paper pieced project, it's going to be easy. So, and this is definitely easy. But let me just show you really quickly how you assemble this. Here, the paper's still on the back of these. I'm just still using strips from the Tranquility, Island Batik Tranquility packet that I got, or strip pack that I got. I will not give you the measurements just because it's over on my Etsy shop, but here's what it looks like, if I can pick it up. Has a few directions on it, and then what you're going to do is you're going to just pin this on like you'd normally do other paper piecing. Luckily, because I printed it on some thinner paper, I can see through the paper. And I'm just going to pin this on, and then you're just going to add your pieces. These are just various strips. I like to use the same. Let me just show you really quickly. I use the same on the outside. You do not have to do that, and then I use a different color on the inside. I made a quilt like this a couple of years ago, and I'll show you that as well, because you don't have to use all triangles in a quilt. If you're going to make one, you can put some solid triangles in the middle, and again, I'll explain that in a second. But let me just show you really quickly how to do this. I always sort of double check before I sew, just the way I do it. And then you're just going to sew down the line. All right, so I sewed that along, so now I'm going to trim that excess away, if I can find my ruler. Just going to use this one. Remember, you leave that 1/4 inch seam allowance. So there's that piece. And you're just going to flip that over and press it. I finger press it. I'll press it later, but I finger press it down. And then I'm going to add this second strip on this side. So it's going to look like that. Once it's all trimmed down, you'll see how it turns out. I always think it's funny, and like I said, I don't do a lot of paper piecing, but it's almost like magic to me, because it looks so funny when you're doing it, and then when you trim everything away, it's like, wow, it really looks good. So yeah, again, I look at it through the light. You can use a light box if you have one. I just use my light in the ceiling, nothing fancy. And then just gonna sew down that strip. All right, so I sewed down this one. Again, I'm going to fold this back. I like to give it a nice push it with my nail or my finger, because it'll help later when you're removing the paper, which is always so much fun, as I say that very sarcastically. That's when the TV comes on and I just sit in front of it and do all this. So there's so you can see how those 2.5 inch strips fit this nicely. And then I'm going to press this really quickly at the ironing station. I can finger press it too if you want. I just like to give it an extra press. All right, so there it is pressed. So I kind of curled up the paper a little bit. Just tip it over, and then I'm going to cut on the line that I have on my pattern. The dotted line is basically your cutting line. And the cutting line, I should add that, is 1/4 inch basically, so that you have that 1/4 inch seam allowance when you're sewing these together. These, I call them blocks, but they're basically these triangles together. All right, so there it is. There's my fun shape, my fun triangle. Here's some more, and let me just show you how I sewed a few of these together. So here is how I sewed together 4 of them. Let me move it up just a little bit. You can see it looks like a great diamond shape. You could, with a little bit more planning, you could almost make these matching, like maybe make this all yellow and then make this that one of the blues. That would be really striking as well. I will say, to get one of these, you can get, excuse me, 2 of these outer edges out of one strip, and you'll still have some fabric left over. So that kind of gives you an idea of how much, what you can get out of the strips. I love a real scrappy look. I'm going to go get another quilt that I did that's similar to this, but I put solids in between. So you can see how that looks, because on my pattern it'll tell you how to get those solid triangle shapes too. But this is that jeweled triangles pattern. So here's this other triangle quilt. You can see you have the triangle shape here, and then I did triangles in here to give you sort of a stripe. I'll put the whole quilt picture on the screen as well. And that's all from one pattern. I did redesign this. This one is a little bit wider in the center. You can see this is one of the blocks. This is the one I just made. You can see it's wider here. What I wanted to do was really utilize jelly roll strips, or 2.5-inch strips, and that's why I couldn't use this older pattern. These are actually strips that were made, and then what I did is I redesigned the center. So it's a little bit different, but this gives you the idea that you can do so much with triangles. Again, a scrappier look, but then I sort of softened it up a little bit, or maybe relaxed it a little bit by putting in this black in the middle of it. So there you go. There are my 9 fun things you can do with jelly roll strips. There's so much more you can do. In fact, if you have great ideas, leave them in my comments. I love to hear new ideas. Sometimes I get even ideas from viewers' comments for new videos. So thank you so much for leaving comments. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I always try to come up with new projects, tutorials, tips, that kind of thing. Also, thank you to Missouri Star Quilt Company. Let me know what you're going to do with your next jelly roll strip set, whatever you want to call it. I really appreciate you coming by today. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.